I think there's growing awareness from the European press, and obviously this joint statement by The Guardian, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, El País, and New York Times was a very good sign. It came 3.5 years too late, and I think part of the problem has been a monumental confusion about the case. And that comes partly from the press itself, who early on was very keen to try to put a wedge between WikiLeaks and the rest of the press and say, oh, WikiLeaks is different, Julian's not a journalist, this and that. What's happened in the meantime is that the press has morphed into the WikiLeaks model. All what WikiLeaks pioneered with the anonymous Dropbox and the partnerships and encryption and so on, everyone has adopted, but because that was the only way to be able to conduct journalism in the internet age. So there's no meaningful, there never was, but there's no meaningful distinction. And then, of course, with the US case, the US case actually went after Julian and WikiLeaks as publishers. And I think the European media is somehow stuck in the mentality of 2010 when they didn't understand the technology. They saw Julian as a newcomer with strange techniques who was different. He was not part of the prestige media, and he was also highly admired and still is, and a household name. And don't underestimate the professional jealousy of these outfits. Who knows the name of the editor of Der Spiegel? Maybe you do, but you ask the average person on the street, they probably don't. And that wasn't the case with Julian and WikiLeaks. So the problem, I think, is partly this hangover of wanting to drive a wedge initially, and then a conceptual problem, which is that Julian has wrongly been described as a whistleblower. And this is really important to understand the distinction, because if you don't understand the distinction, you don't understand the implications of the case against Julian. They're going after Julian as a publisher and a journalist. They're not saying he's a whistleblower. They're not saying he's a source. And the legal implications are completely different. And the joint statement by these 5 partners, Der Spiegel and so on, is finally coming to acknowledge that they went after Julian as a journalist, and the implications, therefore, for press freedom, for their right to publish, sets a precedent for them. And this has been a slow, unfortunately, a very slow process, and probably poor analysis in the beginning and a lot of egos. And the rest of the press in Europe, I think, is still slow to catch on this distinction.